Good evening and welcome to Back to Plough Lane. My name's Stuart Deacons, and we've got a dodgy group. To be fair, we've got Rob joining us tonight, George Jones in some sort of really weird lit place. George, I don't know what you're doing with you. I'm gonna send you some light bulbs that are just decent sideways and colour. Anne-Marie joining us. And we've been joined by Ethan, Chislett and Nesta Guinness-Walker. Guys, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem at all. So, obviously no game yesterday, so a free weekend for you. That must be a nightmare getting a game called off. I'm sure you got all prepared and ready for the game.
Yeah, definitely. Especially this has been the first time in 7 weeks that we've had a full week to prepare for a game. So all the boys are buzzing for it, and we felt that we were best prepared for it. And coming off the back of a great 3 points at Wigan, we all wanted that game on, but like you said, the conditions weren't right, and we just have to go again and focus for next week.
Superb. So I'm going to hand over to Rob and to Anne-Marie. I'm going to step away from this, and I'll leave you in a good company of Rob and Anne-Marie.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, guys. And thank you for sharing your Valentine's evening with us. Really appreciate it. What did you get up to then? As obviously the game was off, did you still do a light training session, or did you just take some time to chill with the family?
No, to be fair, we don't really get it often. We got a complete weekend off. I think Robert it's been quite stressful for the players over the past 2 or 3 months, with a lot of people coming in, a lot of people going out. So I think he just wanted that kind of like mental freshness going into a big week.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just sort of had the day to chill. And I think that's probably really important, like you said, because there's just been so much chop and change, on and off the pitch. And probably just need that time to regroup a little bit. Did you watch any football? Do you guys watch any of the Premier League matches, or is it by the time it's the weekend you've sort of all footballed out?
No, I usually try and tune in. It's good when we're at League One trying to progress and better ourselves as players. It's a great opportunity to watch the best do what they do. So when you get the chance, if you're not too tired or like you said, you get a bit of free time, it's always good to tune in and watch the best do what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you've met Boyce before.
He's
with us tonight.
How's it going? Couple of questions for you guys. One for you, Ethan. Obviously, against Wigan, it was a brilliant result, and you popped up and won us the penalty. You also cut inside from the right wing when you hit the crossbar.
Yeah.
Has your role changed under Robert? Have you got a bit more of a free role, because you seem to be popping up everywhere? And do you have a preference on where you play, number 10 or number 8, or cutting in from the wing?
Anyway. Yeah. First off, I think that a lot of the players have I think actually Ben mentioned it in one of his interviews. The kind of shackles are off. I think on the ball, Robert wants us to play with freedom and be bright in areas where, potentially we wouldn't have been. Just kind of express ourselves. And I feel like, first of all, I think for me personally, that's paying off. And Nesta obviously creating the first goal. I think, 2 months ago, maybe Nesta wouldn't have done that. I don't know. Obviously, Nesta can answer that himself. But there's been a kind of, again, like mentally just kind of freshen things up. And but yeah, on to the second part of the question. I think wherever I can contribute to the team, really. I like playing in the 10 because that means I can be a threat offensively, whether that be goals or assists or trying to win penalties or free kicks. So yeah, I just want to kind of benefit the team.
Sure. Yeah. Another question I got for you guys. You said the shackles are off at the moment. What has the training been like since Robert's taken over as interim manager? Has much changed on the training ground in the last couple of weeks? Or I know he was taking first team training before, but has much changed since he's had to step up now?
Yes, you want to
go? Yeah, like you said, Robbo's come through the academy, so he's got those like Ethan said, fresh ideas. He's bright. He wants to be interactive. He talks a lot about the mental side of the game. So he likes to put on fail sessions. He likes to call them, where there's a high fail rate, but because you're playing in these tight areas and you've got to be bright and you've got to have that mentality to keep pushing and keep carrying on. It's got a high demand on the players, but yeah, the boys are loving it, to be honest. Personally as well, as a young player coming in, you can kind of like come off his energy that he's got, that he wants to have bright ideas, he wants to have sharp new ideas coming in. So yeah, that's, like I said, the sessions have been good. The conditions haven't been the best, obviously, but we've just got to have the mental side to we'll work with what we've been given, and we're going to push on and progress regardless.
You said about you say fail sessions that he calls them?
Yeah.
So is that to try and like force people to be in situations where they're making mistakes, and like how you respond to that?
Exactly that. He even says it himself. He'll put almost ridiculously tight pitches, 8v8s on small pitches, or we played the no block game as another one of his sessions, where it's a tight area. You need to move the ball. You are gonna lose possession, turnover possession, but like you said, it's how he wants to kind of ingrain that, how you react to losing the ball, and have a positive outlook. And can you go get the ball back? Can you chase? Can you get after it and kind of hunt in packs?
Yeah, and that we spoke to Robbo last week, and that was a big thing that came across, is he wants to create that sort of positive learning environment, and people aren't sort of fearing making mistakes. So that I can see how you bring that into his training. And one of the things we talked about last week was the 4 boards that he put around the pitch with the 4 words, and I think George remembered them all. With it said like relentless, ownership, ruthless, and we were just sort of, is that does that kind of thing work? Does it kind of like subliminally message throughout your training? Because he says he wants to build this really kind of positive together culture within the squad.
I think it's up for debate, because it's not like you're going to read those words and suddenly the switch is there, but the method behind it and the theory's there. If you believe and you invest in it as a group, as a family, and you use those as your go-tos and you embed that into your sessions every day, whether it's the fail sessions we were talking about, or just how we are around the building and together as a group, then I think if you invest in it, then why not?
What about for you, Ethan?
Yeah, I think obviously I don't think that we, like as a football community, I don't think we focus enough on that kind of mental aspect of the game. I think it's massive, and as I said previously, I think it's probably about 50-60% of the game. So I think if we can instill that type of, the fact that the boards are there, you might look over at it 2 or 3 times during a session, and maybe something will switch, or you get kind of that positive. Maybe you've just given the ball away and you look at it and you get that kind of positive transition type thing. I think once we get that nailed down in sessions, I think that will transfer itself to a game, and hopefully you'll see a lot more kind of bright play. And once you lose the ball, kind of keep expressing yourself and be confident.
Absolutely. I bet they motivated you through some of the freezing sessions this week as well. What's it like training in the snow? Do you get snow up at Carshalton?
Yeah, there are a few snowballs thrown about. Yeah, but yeah, it was, as I said, it's not great, but I think at KCL I think the ground was rock hard. It was either rock hard or just very, very soft. So, but it just shows the kind of, you just got to get through it and get something out of it.
So I've got a question for you, Nesta. We switched from a back 5 to a back 4, which obviously means you like going from left wing back to left back. Do you have a preference, or how do you feel like your roles changed?
I wouldn't say a preference. I'm still new to the position, as like I said, wing back last year when Wally Downs, and when Glyn took over, put me there. That was the first time I ever played left wing back, so that was new to me. But I think I like getting up and down the pitch and having that space in front of me to show my athleticism and get up and down the pitch. But the formation Robbo's put with the 4, especially when I'm playing with Ryan as an inverted winger, when he's coming inside, that grass is still there for me to push on, and he's given me license to, like Ethan said, express yourself, and the shackles are off. You can go forward, you can get up and down the pitch still as a left back, but just as long as you have your defensive duties and defense comes first. We've been leaking a lot of goals, so for us to start getting clean sheets and, like you said, just solidify ourselves as a defensive unit is very important. But he's not taking my attacking side out of the game. As like we said, as you saw on the weekend, I've got myself assist where I'm up on their byline in their box as a left back.
Did
so no,
you get
good for me.
Ness, did you get an assist the weekend?
Yeah. Do you not see it, Eve?
Nah. I think I was on for the pullback, but not sure.
Another question for both. Another question for both of you. You both obviously came from Met Police. What's it like going from basically into full-time training, stepping up to League One football? Has there been a drastic change? Other trainers.
I'd say
obviously Nesta, it's your second season with us. Ethan, it's probably your first time, isn't it, stepping into full-time training? So I just wanted to know a bit more about that from both of you.
Go on, if you go first.
Well, actually, at Aldershot it was full time, and we trained similar. It was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday if we had a full week going into a game. But in terms of intensity, I think that obviously the sessions are higher in this league, and obviously the players you're playing with, they're a lot more intelligent and clued on. A lot of them have either maybe potentially played in the Prem or Championship and have come down, or they're trying to get to that next level, like a lot of us youngsters are. So it's a difficult league. I think the main thing for me in terms of the biggest difference, I think, is that thought process, and you get a lot less time on the ball. So potentially that physical aspect comes into play, as well as obviously playing with better players and playing against better players too.
Yeah, well, for me, obviously, I came straight from Met Police, which was Ryman Prem and training 2-3 times a week, and then game on the Saturday. So for me, I felt like I was chucked in the deep end a little bit. So this year, I feel physically, like you said, the demands. I've kind of gelled into it. I've got used to it. I've kind of got into the routines and the habits, and I feel physically a lot more there than I was last year, which was more kind of a process last year. So having a year under my belt in that environment, training with the better players, like Ethan said, the high intensity is good for me, and now we're just, both of us are looking to push on really.
So just thinking out loud, obviously Wigan away the other week. How was there anything different in there? I hear that you might have travelled all together. Is that right? A different way of travelling? So Nesta, or Ethan, sorry.
Nesta, go on.
The travelling was that. Help me out, Eve. I can't remember. Robo's going to kill me. Robo's going to kill me.
The way through.
I think we were all. I think it was like normal, wasn't it?
I heard all travel. Yeah. I heard all the travels together. Is that right? Or am I?
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah. Go on.
It was. So usually we would have just a meet time at Euston or King's Cross, wherever we're getting the long haul train from. But this time, Robbo wanted us all to walk from the training ground, all as a group, and like you said, get on the underground on the same train, all as a trying to just build what Ethan said, that the mentality side of the game, on and off the pitch, you can integrate that into everyday life. So just trying to get that family togetherness, which is, like I said, Robbo is going to be arguing that it's paid off because he come away with 3 points.
Is that dangerous, you lot all on the underground? Obviously, it's in terms of it's obviously quiet now, isn't it? Who are the jokers? Obviously, we've interviewed Joe Piggott and that. Who are the jokers on there? Who are the ones who like to get up to a bit of mischief? Yeah,
Joe Piggott's definitely a name that's gonna come out every time. Piggs loves a heckle, but there's a few.
So obviously, Wigan away, 2-0 up. So obviously, you got down the touchline and picked out Jack Radoni and stuff like that. 2-0 up. It's interesting that Robbo was saying, we always say it's a dangerous lead, but he doesn't want to get into that. But is that psychologically, that 2-0, obviously we haven't been able to keep clean sheets recently. Psychologically, was that a big hurdle to get from 2-0 to 2-2 and then to 3-2 to hold on, Nesta?
Yeah, I think we could all sit here and pretend that we're all just playing football, but that does play on your mind. We hadn't had a win in 2 months. That is a massive thing psychologically, has a massive psychological effect. Although you try and clear your mind and go into a game, that was something that we all knew as a group we needed to change that around. So once we've got that lead, we've got a taste for it. So now I feel like with Robbo's trying to take the shackles off, maybe now we'll be able to have a deep breath, stick our chests out and control the game. But there was definitely a little bit of, you could kind of sense that there was a bit of jittery about it because we all wanted that 3 points so badly. But credit to the boys coming back from 2-2 and like I think you could tell once we conceded that second goal that we really kind of grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and kind of went again. And Rudy and Ethan showing great determination to win the penalty. And then obviously you're always going to trust Pigs. You're always going to have your money on Pigs to slot that one away.
And Ethan, you had obviously quite an involvement in the game. You know, hit the crossbar, great move. Were you gutted? Did you mean to lift it, or was it just, you know, trying to get on target? And then of course, outrageous back heel by Rudy to get the penalty, and then you got in there. Were you disappointed you didn't score from that crossbar chance?
Yeah, played on my mind a bit, to be fair. But to be fair, the thought process was that the keeper was going to go down. You know, quite instinctively, I thought that it's a tight angle and he's going to make himself big, as big as possible. And eventually, once I took the shot, it just kind of maybe an inch or two lower, and you know, it was a good goal and obviously a great move. I think that was from a transition. We won it back. I think Nesta won it back. Then we switched the play out wide and kind of got the chance from that. So yeah, obviously more of that type of football would be very nice. And sorry, what was the second part of your question?
And the penalty, wasn't it? Obviously. So did you think Rudy was going to get, because that was something you didn't want to give up, wasn't it? But everyone was literally on their toes, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Did you think Rudy was going to do that and just be in amongst it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Rudy's a brilliant player. I think he's definitely got that in his locker. Not saying I'd expected it, but again, I think it comes down to the mentality thing. I think you got to expect the worst or the best case scenario, and luckily Rudy's pulled off a very good back heel, and I've just managed to get there.
Did you want a penalty?
Yeah, I do like penalties, but at the end of the day, I think, you know, obviously Pigs with his scoring rate this season, I don't think it's like an argument.
So what's the celebration like? Because obviously one thing that I was interested in looking on iFollow was, you see some teams, I know when Crawley beat us recently at Plough Lane, and some of the teams that have beaten us, they've been like overjoyed and celebrating and stuff like that. But we were quite measured after that, which I found was quite interesting. Was that just literally the win? It's only a win. Move on, next game. Was there any celebrations in the change room at all?
I feel like it was long overdue. So there was kind of a sense of relief more than anything, because we've been working so hard the past 2 months and things aren't going our way. We've not been getting the results that we've been wanting. So it was a massive part of relief. But once we got in the change room, we definitely as a group, privately in between the four doors, like made it known how well we've done to get those 3 points, and just got that ball rolling now. And obviously Saturday was called off, but we were hoping to start picking up a few results and start climbing the table, because we need to start doing that.
In terms of what Stu was saying about doing the celebrations, obviously Ethan's not actually really played in front of Wimbledon fans. Nesta has. How would you describe the Wimbledon fans? I mean, we're a bit of a balmy bunch, but yeah, I mean, it will be so different when you can play in front of a packed Plough Lane.
Yeah, it's chilling. Scoring those last minute. I remember Peterborough away.
Yeah.
Peterborough at home. Sorry, that 1-0. That was the way the stadium erupts. Like you said, we strong in numbers, we're loud in voice. So that's definitely something that we've missed out on this season. Is having the Wimbledon fans behind us, pushing us on and giving us that extra boost. But we know they're there in spirit, and we try and repay that every time we're on the pitch, and we put the shirt on to kind of let them know that we know that they're watching and supporting us, and just try to repay them as much as we can.
Because I know some like Premier League players and things have been saying, yes, actually prefer it without fans, and I think we get that, because obviously there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. But I guess it must make your game much more enjoyable to be playing in front of people. It's what you do.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, Ethan winning that penalty, you can just imagine the noise that's going to be coming, and all those there's small. You can have arguments for either way, but especially coming from non-league, there's nothing better than hearing however many thousand fans screaming and singing our songs while you're playing. So for me, it's a no-brainer that we just want the fans back in as soon as possible.
How have you found Plough Lane, Nesta, in terms of, obviously you're used to Kings Meadow. So obviously now we're at Plough Lane. George and I have been lucky enough to be to some games, and it's really difficult to. It's just difficult, isn't it? It's an empty stadium, and you can hear everything. How have you found it? Have you been able to psychologically think there's a crowd there, or how do you get yourself through a game? Because it's difficult without that crowd behind you.
Yeah, well, the surface there for starters is ridiculous. So there's no complaints in terms of that. You can see just from the outside, the facilities is a huge leap from Kings Meadow. But just the sentimental value that Plough Lane has, it's almost like you don't need the crowd there because you know how much it means to every Wimbledon fan to be back at Plough Lane. So that's a massive boost in itself. Every time we get the chance to step out there, if you're starting or not, we all know the history and the message behind it. So in terms of that boost, you kind of have that regardless. But yeah, the fans there is definitely being a miss, and it'll be surreal when they're back in there. What, 10,000 can hold Plough Lane, almost pushing onto it?
Yeah, about 10,000, and whatever game that's going to be the first game is going to be a mad occasion. Yeah. Ethan, how have you found it? Because obviously, you haven't got the experience obviously at Kings Meadow. How have you found it at Plough Lane? It's obviously a really, really nice stadium. How have you found it? Because obviously, coming from non-league into League One would have been a challenge for you. Do you think you've been helped or not helped by having a crowd at Plough Lane?
I think everyone has their own kind of say in it, but for me personally, I prefer it with fans, definitely, because I think you just get that edge. You get that bit of adrenaline before, as you're about to walk out, and you just hear all the chants and stuff like that, which I heard there's a few chants. So again, the same as Nesta, I can't wait for the fans to be back in, just to kind of play football in front of them.
And Nesta, I have to ask, actually, just thinking about Plough Lane, how did it happen that you got to do the modelling on the kit?
It's funny because we actually had when Dobby came in on loan from Sunderland, we had a little part of his initiation was to pick the ugliest player in the squad, and he's gone and picked me. So we had a few debates about that. But no, I don't know. I guess you got to ask whoever's part of the kit launch for that. But no, it was a great honour for me to do that and have my face revealing the Back to Plough Lane shirt. That was a great day for me. And also I got a sneak peek before all the boys really to see how the stadium was unfolding. I was actually the first Wimbledon player to step on the pitch as well. So that will always be close to me. That'll be a little trophy I can keep personal to me. But yeah, no, I don't know how that came about. I think we might have to ask Dobby when we get into training. What do you think?
And Ethan, just thinking, obviously, initiations, that's a really interesting initiation, actually, Nesta. So I was going to ask that, who's been singing what? Ethan, who would you have picked then if you were Dobby?
It's a difficult one.
If you got to do me a favour and pick him, we're supposed to be boys, man.
Okay, well, yeah. I'll do that, or I think whoever asks the question, I just put it back on them. I think that's the safe way to go.
What did you have to do for your initiation, Ethan?
I had to sing. I'm not actually sure what the questions were. It was all a blur. I don't really want to remember it or recall it. So, but yeah, no, it's obviously the tradition in football, and I think it brings the boys closer together. So I think it is a necessity.
So obviously, the game got cancelled or postponed yesterday, so it means now we've got another game. When you look at it, we've got 20 games left in the season over 11 weeks. So I think I worked out it literally every four yeah, I didn't want to upset you at all on that one. But every 4 days is going to be a game. Do you prefer that, Ethan, rather than training, or because obviously you've had a great chance this week to do training, which I imagine Robbo's been able to get some things in with that. But that seems, our poor form did sort of go in when we had quite a lot of games back to back. Do you think that's going to? How are you going to prepare for that? It's quite a big target.
Yeah, obviously it's difficult because obviously you don't get that full week of preparation, and it not that everything needs to be rushed, but you obviously get a shorter time span to prepare for games. But obviously, as a footballer, that's what you want to do. You want to play in games, and you want to just do as well as you can for the club. So, from that perspective, I don't think that. Yeah, obviously, it's going to be challenging physically, maybe mentally, but I think we're going to go into those fixtures. Obviously, full week this week, so we need to make the most of that. But we're going to those fixtures with hopefully some momentum and back-to-back wins. I think that will stand us in good stead. And yeah, again, as Nesta said, get a club up the table and start looking upwards rather than downwards.
I have a question regarding, in January, we brought 5 players in the January window, but us Don fans haven't seen the 2 new strikers play yet. How have they fitted into the group, and have either of them caught your eye? Do you look at them and think, wow, this is a player, or does anyone stand out, or they both stand out, or what do we look forward to as fans?
Corey and Shay have been sharp and bright, but both of them are, as I think Robert mentioned, are just trying to get up to match speed before they can be involved in the match day squad and show to the Wimbledon fans what they've got. But Corey he's got that hunger. He's come from non-league, same level as me, and Eve coming from the Ryman Prem at Kingstonians. He's had an unbelievable goal scoring record there, which has warranted his move. None of this is an accident. So credit to him, and hopefully from there he can push on and go strength for strength, being back in a professional environment. And Shay, sharp. He was at Tottenham for a long period of his life, made his debut, come on at Anfield against Liverpool under Pochettino. So yeah, he's got a lot of talents to show us, and he wants to be back in the England game because obviously he went abroad, so he's got a lot to prove. Both of them have got a lot to prove, so that's what you need at Wimbledon: young, hungry players that want to put their stamp on the team and the club and show the fans what they're made of. So yeah, definitely a lot of exciting stuff to come from them, hopefully.
It sounds like Corey's come from sort of a similar background to you guys, like you said, coming through non-league. What advice, short bit of advice would you both give to him in terms of settling in at Wimbledon and playing at League One level? Is there anything that you look back on from when you signed that you think, actually, if someone had said that to me, that would have been really helpful? And
I think obviously coming from a non-league to professional, I think you just got to keep your head down and work hard. I think a lot of people potentially get to the pro game and think that, I don't know, they've made it or stuff like that. But I mean, obviously, I'm not saying Corey's that type of player or that type of guy, but he just needs to keep his head down, work hard, and things are going to happen for him.
Yeah, I actually spoke to Corey when I found out he got his contract and had a word with him saying, I've obviously come from the same level as you, and I said just same thing, work harder than everybody else, just make it known that you're hungry and you want to be here, and the goals will come. As a striker, you could either say he's got the simplest or the hardest job. He needs to put the ball in the back of the net. So for him, I just said, do your extras, and then when you get your opportunity, it's a great opportunity to put your mark and maybe push for Pigs' shirt. So I said to him, just get some goals under you and get a bit of momentum and keep working hard, like Eve said.
So obviously, have you guys yet seen his celebration that's doing the YouTube showing when he's grabbed a beer on one of the celebrations? Have you seen that yet at all, Nesta?
No.
You've not seen it at all?
Who's that? Shay?
Yeah, so he scored, I think, help me out, guys. I think Robert, wasn't it? Was it when he was in Holland?
Yeah, Dutch League.
Yeah, he scored. I think I scored a goal, and literally a glass or plastic bottle comes over, and he literally grabs it as a drink, and then chucks it back into the fans. So
you're settling well at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was going to say, on that. We'll send you over a link. He did do the rounds.
Yeah,
when
definitely.
he signed in, and but it's interesting for his career, isn't it? He's been over to Melbourne, then over to Holland. Is that something that any of you guys would want to do? I know, obviously, Ethan, you said you've been to Spain and playing a futsal. That's quite a big move to do at that age, isn't it? To go out to Melbourne, Nesta.
Yeah, definitely. I think that shows what his character's about. He wants to play football and he wants to play at the highest level he can. So that's credit to him, because that's not an easy thing to do. Like you said, at a young age, to leave your family, your friends, your comforts, to go out there almost blindly and just there and try and play football. But credit to him. And I don't know, me and Ethan have spoke about this before, but I don't know, everyone, I feel like, well, I'll speak for myself. My dream is to play in England. So that's not something I'm too concerned about. I want to play my football here and be able to stay with my family and friends. But you never know, if something comes around. You can never say never in football.
Ethan, what about yourself?
Well, obviously, I had 2 years in Spain, so I've kind of. I think it's a lot more apparent now for young English players to go abroad, because I think obviously there's a massive amount of competition in England. So I think potentially, I mean, their view is that they get potentially more opportunity out there. I'm not sure, maybe a different perspective of the game, and as Nesta said, get out of your comfort zone. So there are definitely positives to going abroad, but as Nesta said, England's, I think, probably the best country in the world for football at the moment. So
brilliant. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, we want you to stay as long as you can, because we've obviously not had a chance to see you this season. So it'll be great to see you next season and stuff like that. But thank you very much for joining us on this Sunday evening, and we all wish you the best of luck at Peterborough next week and for the rest of the season.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much,
thanks
guys.
for having us.
Cheers. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.
And then there were 4. So yeah, that was quite an interesting one. I can't believe Initiation, they got them to pick the ugliest person.
It does seem a bit harsh.
Savage.
It does seem a bit harsh for your first weekend away, but your first overnight stay with all the players, and they're making you go to that level. It seems a bit rough. I think the seems the easier one there.
Especially as footballers these days are much more well groomed. I think if they'd played that game back in our non-league days, that would have been quite a tough choice.
Yeah, true. Yeah, try and narrow that down, wasn't it? It would have been quite interesting on there. So yeah, we have quite a few people watching at the moment. Gary Fletcher, good evening. Yeah, Gary's just basically just saying in terms of, it's obviously at home you want the fans, but away games easier to play without fans, as you're not getting heckled by opposition fans. I think that's why I asked the question to Ethan, was because when George and I were lucky enough to go to games, I felt that Ryan Longman and Ethan didn't have that pressure on them that they probably would have if they had come, in terms of playing in front of a crowd. So I think that does add pressure. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I suppose there doesn't seem any pressure on players at the moment. Am I right in thinking that, Anne-Marie?
Sorry, Shea, I just wanted to jump in very quickly. At the Charlton away game where there were fans, you could definitely tell that was having an impact on the players, but not just the players, but the referee as well, because that's something that, sorry to criticise referees with Anne-Marie here, apologies. I've done 2 months of shows without doing this, but the referee did seem to make pressurised decisions because of fans. I don't think he makes if that game was behind closed doors. And at away games, that's something you do have to deal with if there is a crowd. And I think we were just unfortunate with there. But it is an interesting point because we have benefited, especially at, like, for example, the Sunderland away game, where you think if there's a crowd there, do we get a point? And we've been punished with Charlton. I think we get something from that game if there wasn't anybody there.
And do you know what? Sorry, I was just going to say very quickly, Anne-Marie, did you see, obviously, Charlton yesterday, is it Anike, the ex-person who played for that team, got sent off? I looked at it and felt, would he have got sent off with crowds there?
Yeah, do you know what? I almost said it to the players, but I didn't want to, just bring everything back to sort of officiating as such. But actually, it is anyone who says, whether they're a referee or a coach or a player, that they're not affected by the crowd, that's just not true. And it's so clear that match officials are probably subliminally influenced by the crowd noise. And like Ethan said, you know, when you got these pen calls, it does play on your mind. It's absolutely true, because you start to doubt yourself. Have I missed something? Have I got the right angle for that decision? Has everybody seen something I've not? And yeah, no, it definitely will be affecting match officials for sure. And then that impacts the game, whether that's in a positive or negative way. I guess it depends on how the players respond to that. And they actually sound, you know, it's really refreshing speaking to Nesta and Ethan. They both sounded so positive, didn't they? They seem like they've really got their heads screwed on, and they're all about buying into what Robbo's been all about since he started.
Definitely. And Rob, I don't know if you had a chance to see the goals. The goals for Gillingham yesterday, 3-2 at Charlton. I don't know if you had a chance to see a goal, but the second goal from Gillingham was probably goal of the season, like in League One. It was just ridiculous. Do you have a chance to see it, Rob?
I haven't seen all the goals, but I saw the goal you were referring to. But yeah, it's nothing. It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous on that. Obviously, the games that were on yesterday, do you know what I mean? There wasn't many games. So I thought we'd go through some discussion points. One of the things I wanted to raise sort of involves Wimbledon. It's been actually on the Academy, tweeted it about a couple of hours ago, which I was quite disappointed for, because I thought it was quite a good link from me. But I don't know if you've seen, obviously, National League chaos at the moment. Let's just call it that. It's chaos. Where teams are had a 2-week break in the National South and North, and nothing's changed, but now they want them back to play. And there's still nothing changed. You haven't got the money. The lottery money's been spent and stuff like that. Clubs now, Maidstone started it and said, we're going to furlough the first team and going to play non-contract and loans. Got me thinking, we've surely got, you know, Robbo likes to get the kids out to non-league, and we've done that before. We could, not you want to sort of capitalise on it, but what's the chances of our players? George, I'll go with you first. I know you love youth players. That's got to be a good possibility for us to just give them out of loans, isn't it?
But it has, and I mean, the number of times, whether it was on the Back to Plough Lanes earlier this season or on our Sunday night shows across the whole year, we've been saying we've got a lot of young players this year who would benefit from a loan spell, maybe not at that National League level, maybe sort of Isthmian League, but there's an opportunity now for young Football League players to go out and blood themselves in the men's game at a reasonable level, where there'll be a bit of exposure, because it's you know, even though there's not going to be any crowds there, you still play National League football. There'll still be televised games on BT if it's in the National League Premier. So for some of the young players who have got, you know, we're expecting big things from in the next couple of years, it's a really good chance for them to leapfrog a couple of steps in their development and to be thrown in at the deep end to see whether they sink or swim. Because as me and Stu, and I mean, I know Stu's spoken about it a lot this season, the number of high-quality players who are out of contract, senior players, who will probably be willing to play for free in the National League to try and earn a contract somewhere else next season. That could be a really competitive, interesting league if this sort of develops into what we think it's going to end up as teams basically playing free agents and loanees for the rest of the season. It's a really good opportunity for our young players. I think it does go to show how fragile the game is at that level and how desperate they are for more funding. And yeah. I mean, I'd recommend everyone follow Dulwich Hamlet on Twitter, because they're being brutally honest about it, and it's not pretty at all.
Well, it needed that, didn't it? And Maidstone were the first one to go with it. Rob, what's your thoughts on that? Because I suppose technically, could we not just send our team and just play as Maidstone?
I think isn't there a loan rule though that we can only send X amount of players to a certain team? I mean, maybe George will know more. He's got his hand up. Go on, George.
There is rules that you can only have 5 loanees at a time and only 4 from one club.
Okay.
Is the ruling at that
George,
level.
you take away all the fun.
So we could have 4 loanees going to a single club, or we could spread them out a bit. But sadly, those are the rules, and it does mean that, you know, those clubs, they are going to have to take on a lot of free agents. They're going to probably have to take on at least 10, 15 free agents to play for free. And if you've got 60 clubs doing that, you got to wonder, you know, how many players will be desperate enough for that level of football.
It's crazy, isn't it, when you think about it and that sort of side of it. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Do you know what I mean, in terms of sending them out? Do you think is the integrity of the non-league at stake here if players are just sending loans out?
I think generally that, you know, there's a lot at stake for non-league at the moment. It's like George said, it's a very worrying situation. And if, you know, as they say, the football family, don't they? If there's things we can do to help them, if it means we get something out of it by learning our players and they get, you know, players on quite cheap, hopefully that we can, that's us sort of lending a hand back to where our roots are. Do I think the integrity is at stake? It's hard. I mean, I'd be willing to sort of, from what George was saying, his point about some of the boys might go out to kind of Isthmian level. In many respects, it doesn't really matter too much. This is obviously my opinion, and coaches probably disagree all over the country. I don't think it massively matters what level of non-league they go in at for some of our youngsters. It's just about getting that game time, getting that momentum. You're going to learn so much almost wherever you go. So yeah, no, it's a tricky one, and I hope that, you know, and I'm sure we will be doing all we can to kind of help clubs locally, and then you know, it's not selfish to say that we'll get something out of it by helping develop our youngsters.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing that furloughs. Barrow have been either creative or devious. So I don't know if you've seen this, but Barrow furloughed 5 players in the January, and they were players that were surplus to didn't need them, so they furloughed them, and then bought 5 new players in on salaries. So Barrow have stretched the rules. So whether they're being smart or, you know, Rob, it's crazy, isn't it? Furlough is being abused by so many people, and now we've seen one football club, Barrow, totally abuse it. What do you think?
I agree with you, mate. I think it's a complete mess. I think they should have tried to sort this out from the start of the season, or the season shouldn't have gone ahead. To get to this stage in the season and then you're having all these shenanigans going on, just seems absolutely crazy to me. I mean, we're already seeing League One, like Swindon, are having financial issues, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen any clubs go under yet, if I'm honest with you. And I think that is the next thing which is going to happen in the coming months if it's not sorted out.
No, I think what Rob touched on there is important, but it's important to look at. This is a mess that the National League has made for itself effectively over the last 12 months. Because if we look back to where we were in March last year, we talked about it a lot during our lockdown live, during the first lockdown, of how the National League system was trying to get itself declared as elite sport so they could play behind closed doors to complete their sort of playoff season. And then they assumed they'd have crowds back in August, and it didn't work that way. So they had to, you know, they weren't able to get crowds back, but they were allowed to keep playing. Then they gambled again in the summer, effectively gambling that they'd have crowds back by, you know, the new year. And they got that wrong again. And that's why they're in the mess they are now of being in February time. They're not even halfway through their season. Dover have only played 15 games. They've got to play 29 games in 10 weeks now. So they're not going to finish their season, whatever happens. But but this is a mess they've made because they've gambled so many times and lost. Because they've gambled on COVID being resolved by this point, and it hasn't been. So as a result, the National League's a real mess. It's an entirely foreseeable mess, and it's one that they made. So they've got to have a major review at the end of this, even if they can sort out the problem short term.
Well, it's interesting. I was listening to Aaron Paul's 72 Plus with Dara and Lyle. I was listening back to it actually because there's a lot of interesting stuff that come out of it. And one thing that made me really jumped out at me was Dara was saying there was 1,500 players out of work this summer and expected to have 2,000 players out of work. And we've just obviously seen the PFA challenge the salary cap. It's 2,000 players. It's mind-boggling, isn't it? It's absolutely mind-boggling. Anne-Marie, what do you expect for the summer? Because are the clubs in a better position? Because I'm imagining players will be taking deals as quick as they can. I would have thought the ones that definitely can't command. So yeah, if you think about Joe Biggett, we think we're going to lose him now in the summer. He can command a place, but there's lots of players going to be out of contract. 2,000 players, madness.
I think it's one of those situations where that, you know, every single club at every level has been affected by it. So it's about being intelligent and being savvy with the situation. We're all in the same situation. So, like you said, that's whether it puts us in a better stance. I'm sure the club will be clever and keep that, you know, the recruitment drive on free agents, and because, you know, there's some unbelievable players out there who aren't attached to clubs, and it's about using those contacts, being savvy. But I think importantly, it just showed, the whole thing of the last 12 months has shown how fragile football already was, which is, you know, unfortunately reared its head in how it's affected so many non-league clubs at the bottom of the pile. I think actually maybe we might be in a more advantageous position than other clubs, because we already have an infrastructure where we're built on not having the world's biggest budget, and we obviously know how to sell that to players, and we've seem to have got a couple of really good players in January. I just think it's about being savvy, and I should imagine, obviously we don't know who the manager is going to be long term, but I should imagine we've got one eye on the summer already.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will.
Before we go on to the manager vacancies, I think that's a good way to finish on that one. Twitter today was of the London Broncos potentially wanting to play by March the 20th, I think, on that. I think wishful thinking. Money's going to be tight, Rob, in the summer, isn't it? I know you and I have discussed money, not money between us, sort of side of it. It's going to go to a vote, we understand. The Don Trust Board have said it's going to go to a vote. What's your gut feeling on what you're going to do? A lot of people said they want to make an informed decision to have the actual financials. Do you want that? I'm not going to put you on the spot. What's your gut feeling on, should we take it? Should we not take it?
My gut feeling is I think we should take it. I don't think we're in a position to not take it, if I'm honest with you. Obviously, we have to repay the bonds. We've been hit with COVID like every other club. And I think, we just need to get much revenue through the door as possible, especially with the salary cap now going as well, because, the teams with more money, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, that thing. So I believe we need to get as much money through the door, help start repaying the bonds, and so we have a decent playing budget moving forwards, because we want to sustain being a football league club, don't we?
Yeah, and George, I've spoken about this, haven't we? We don't know when. Hey, look, there's some look like good news today in terms of a roadmap out of lockdown. But obviously, don't get too excited about that. But hopefully, that will mean potentially we'll have games to go to later in the year. But it's still uncertain. Still got scientists sort of saying, well, we shouldn't go back out, and our number will go up. George, what are you thinking in terms of? Do you think the money's really essential? Because there's a mix on this from what I'm hearing, people.
I mean, the money's essential. I don't think anyone can have any debate on that. And it'd be essential even if we had a full crowd, and we'd had a full crowd all season at Plough Lane anyway. The amount of money that the Broncos would be paying, even though they're not in the Super League right now, would be significant, and it would get even more if they do get promoted to the Super League at some point during their stay at Plough Lane. And I think we can't be, picky. We can't say we want to be fan zoned, we want Plough Lane to ourselves, and we want to be a mid-table League One football club. We've got to have, and if it's a choice between letting one team have no branding on their stadium and just using it every other weekend, or selling out and abandoning our ownership structure, that's a no-brainer, surely. And, having the extra funding and the facilities that would have us and the contacts that would get us, the additional sponsorship revenue for the naming rights and stand sponsorship, all of those things would increase drastically for the duration of their stay. And the money the Broncos would pay us would almost be incidental in comparison. We can't turn down that sort of money in the position we're in right now. And, from the sound of it, Broncos are being very reasonable with what they're expecting us to do. And, the pitch will be fine. We know that. There won't be any permanent branding. We know that. It seems like this is a perfect deal.
Yeah, Amory, does it tarnish Plough Lane? Because Plough Lane was for us, wasn't it? I think we all expected that we might look at a ground shed. If you remember, I think rugby clubs were mentioned ages ago, weren't they, and stuff like that. Does it tarnish it? Should we accept the money, or playing devil's advocate, should we say, actually, do you know what, we want it for ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of a head and a heart. I think in my heart, I would say yes, it does tarnish it. Very, in the sense, it's ours, and we've been wanting this for so long, and then we're all chomping at the bit to get back there. It's been delayed even further because of everything going on. So I do really get that feeling from kind of that ownership and that fully Wimbledon feel, especially because I know we all got a bit fatigued towards the end of Kings Meadow when everything started. You got Chelsea ladies branding everywhere, and that's when you really kind of knew you'd overstayed the welcome a little bit. And we don't really want to. And it's not ideal, but I think like George said, and what I was saying before about at the moment we're just in a situation we have to be savvy. I think we'd be silly to turn it down. We can make it work. It's not ideal, but I think they were a bit cheeky putting out on social media today, we're here.
Yeah.
And I think that was cheeky. And hopefully just a bad error on their communications part. But I think we can make it work and actually exploit it to some extent to promote ourselves a bit more. People talking. There's a whole different crowd. Whether you want rugby fans in being silent during free kicks, I'm sure that's what they do at rugby games. I don't know.
They're egg chasers, aren't they? That's basically what they are.
Yeah,
aren't they?
we can convert them. But yeah, I think it's one of those things. Yes, it will tarnish it, but I think we can make it what it is and make it a success.
I think it is important, though. Sorry, Stu, one last thing on the topic. It's very important that we don't link it with what we had with Chelsea at Kingsmeadow, because there wouldn't be any permanent branding in this situation. If you're not there on a Broncos match day, you wouldn't even know the Broncos are there. And I think that's a really important thing, because I think that's what a lot of people are scared of and what a lot of people are worried about. And I think if we reinforce that message, then I think it will become clear that this is a deal we really isn't a lot of downside to, apart from obviously the psychological impact of sharing Plough Lane. But I think that's something we might have to sacrifice for the sort of financial well-being of the club.
So we've got a question here. Well, not really a question. It was more of a statement. David Barney, as long as the pitch stays in good shape, we've had the issue in Toronto sharing with pointy ball football. Love that. Egg chasers, I'm calling them pointy ball football. Thank you for that, for David. I'm guessing Toronto, they've got a soccer team. I shouldn't say soccer. Football team in Toronto, I'm guessing, isn't it?
Yeah,
well, it's pretty cold. It's pretty cold over there, so I'm guessing they're going to stay ahead and ours don't.
It's important to remember that Toronto's pitch wasn't great before, and it is shared between Toronto Wolfpack and Toronto. I forget their proper name of the football club over there, but they are shared. That the Plough Lane pitch was effectively built for a ground show, built for rugby league, and rugby league it's very little damage to the pitch. And I mean, you look at our pitch this season, and you look at the other football league pitches already. That tells you how good the pitch is, and it's more than capable of holding on.
Yeah, so, and it's interesting actually, because I was thinking this, and I know why you're saying it, George, but Mike Arrowsmith, you can't say it's a no-brainer unless you know how much money is coming in. We're not being told that. And I think that's a message, isn't it, Rob? When you think about it, it has been linked on Twitter again. That's not the first time it's happened. You mentioned that, didn't you, in terms of it doesn't look like we're controlling the narrative. And I think that's a bit of a worry for fans, because we do need to be told how... Do we need to be told how much it is? Can we be told how much it is? Would it affect, Rob? Would it affect your call if it was not as much money as you thought? What is a sensible figure? You know what I mean? Like, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
It's hard to put a ballpark figure on it, isn't it? Without comparing to other clubs, what other clubs bring in. It's not something I've actually researched. But definitely like to know the figure of what we would be getting. But like George said, there's all the other revenue with the sponsorships, which he raised a good point there. One thing we'd like to say about the pitch, everyone's worrying about the pitch and will it cut up the pitch? Well, would that not benefit us if they cut up the pitch? Because it seems the opposition...
We play total football now, Rob.
Because it seems the opposition love playing on our pitch, but we don't seem to like playing on it so much. So I think we need to worry a little bit less on the pitch and more on the finances.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Like I say, I've chatted to a few people today who are literally like, we need to know a bit more in detail. And I know, George, I know you're right in terms of no-brainer money and stuff like that. But it is a decision to make, isn't it? And, I think if you're going to make a decision, if it's going to be a vote, you've got to have an informed opinion before you sort of go on there. So I'm sure that will go on and go on. David Barney's just come back. Toronto Football Club, football shares with Toronto Argos. Is that right? It's branded by Argos. You just go and pick up the ball from the designated slot. Sorry. And we have the same Grassmaster as Wembley. Okay. Well, David, thank you very much for joining us. Justin Gower, can I buy a half a season ticket? You can, but you can't get in at the moment. But you're by all means welcome to. That's someone said that the other day. I noticed that half season tickets in terms of would a club going to offer non-refundable season tickets for half a season? Weird, isn't it? In terms of
I think that sort of ship sailed in the summer. I think if you gave out half-season tickets now, and then let's say we were allowed a very restricted capacity for the run-in, April and May, if we were allowed a crowd for that, you'd be in a very awkward position if some people have paid half the price for the same number of games, effectively.
Yeah. So let's get on to the subject that I think we're all hoping for a resolution this week, the manager vacancy. So, do you know what? There's been nothing, is there? I'm not saying leaks are not good at all, but absolutely nothing in terms of it's just South London press, isn't it? In terms of Jason Ewell's applied for the position, we understand. Apparently, Cowley brothers are not interested. Although I would say there was no quotes in that story. But to be fair, Rich Corley is quite good normally with South London press. Are we expecting, Anne-Marie, what are we expecting this week? We understand interviews were done last week. Are we expecting a decision this week, possibly?
Do you know what? When I heard the game was called off yesterday morning, my very first thought actually was I felt really bad for Robbo, because obviously it was, we had the momentum from the win, and it was a big opportunity. There was all eyes on him, and he'd probably spent that whole week investing in that match against Rochdale, what we're going to do, and if we got a result from it, that could have that influences his application for the job. So I did feel really gutted for him in that moment, because that opportunity for a win and a possible kind of nod for the long-term gaffer role was kind of taken away from him because of the pesky weather. What do I think? I don't know how I really honestly don't know how it's going to pan out. I expect that a lot of it will probably be financially driven, in terms longer term. You have to think about what kind of deals and contracts we can offer and that kind of thing, like we were saying about being savvy. It's really hard to tell. One thing I know, when Eric spoke a few years ago when we were interviewing players, interviewing managers, I can't remember whose role it was for, but he was saying that they did it in hotels. I guess this would have all been done over Zoom, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
They would have had to do any presentations or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt gutted for Robbo, because it was a big opportunity yesterday to almost give him a sort of additional boost to his application.
That's a good point, though. That's a good point, Anne-Marie, actually. I didn't think about that in terms of interviews over Zoom, and because that takes, in my job, I've done interviews on Zoom, and they're a nightmare. One, because I'm trying to make sure I've done my hair and look presentable, and then, to be honest with you, I'm too busy being nosy about people's backgrounds, and I shouldn't be judging an interview on what people's backgrounds is, but you can't help it. It's just your subconscious. That's a really good point, Rob, isn't it? In terms of if it's on Zoom, and we don't know how the interviews have been done, but that changes the goalposts immediately, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not something I thought of. I mean, I personally thought the interviews would be done at Plough Lane because we've got the conference in and we could social distance. But
yeah,
we said with the
big enough stand, isn't it?
Yeah, with the technology now, might have made sense just to do it over Zoom. But yeah, I'm the same as Anne-Marie. I did feel a bit sorry for Robbo with the game getting postponed. But I mean, I have heard a rumour that decisions being made. I don't have any names or anything. It's just a case of dotting the I's and the crosses. So I think we might hear something this week. Personally, I want it to be Robbo, because I think you alluded to it earlier, Stu, that once we play Peterborough, we've got a game every 4 days. So if we've got a new manager, it's not much time on the training ground to work his magic or work his philosophy and ideas. I mean, I like Robbo, he knows the squad. So personally, that's what I'm hoping for this week, an announcement during the week of Robbo getting the job until at least the end of the season, or an 18-month contract to give us a chance, if we were to get relegated, to rebuild, give us a bit of stability.
Yeah, George, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I was just going to say, George, very quickly, a game every 4 days is a very valid point for Rob. The game called off. I agree. I was a little bit disappointed because I think Robbo would have, my gut feeling was if he'd won that game, then that's a very difficult thing to say no to somebody. But it's a good point, Rob. 4 games, there's nothing on the pitch. It's basically go, isn't it, George?
And that's the thing. I think personally, and I haven't, hid the fact it's all, I'm backing Robbo. I think he's the
George,
perfect candidate. I think Ron raises a very valid point, as we saw in sort of November, December, and January time, when it was Saturday, Tuesday. Glyn didn't have time to implement very much on the training ground, because it was literally prep, match day, recovery day, and pretty much non-stop. And it's going to be that for the rest of the season. So it needs somebody, a new manager isn't going to be able to implement a new philosophy. And as we've seen, Robbo's had, effectively a full week, even though we had the Checker Trade game or the Peter game against Oxford on the Tuesday. He's had a full week now, and however long this week before an announcement is made. So for me, I think that philosophy, and we already saw that last week against Wigan. I would have loved to have seen it against Rothschild, because I agree with Stu. If we go and win that in a performance like we did in the first half an hour against Wigan, it became very difficult to take the job away from Robbo. But I think it's going to be an interesting decision to see what direction the club do take it this week. But I am expecting something, probably middle of this week at the latest. And like I said, it'll be a challenge for whoever, if anyone else comes in, it'll be a real challenge for them to implement any philosophy changes from what Robbo's already implemented.
Yeah, and we just don't know who's on that shortlist, do we? Like I say, we ain't know Jason Yule's on that shortlist. It might be the shortest list ever. Do you know what I mean? I just don't know. It's that sort of side of it. Rob, when you look at fixtures, I don't want to depress anybody, but we've got a hell of a week in Peterborough. Peterborough away, Gillingham at home, who's obviously just gone to the Valley and scored 3. And then Hull City at Plough Lane, who lost the last 2 games. They lost, didn't they, to... I think they lost to now. George, help me out.
Let's skip over who they lost to, Stu.
Oh, yeah, that team. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, that's what I forgot on that sort of side of it. But, yeah, if someone comes in, the more you look at it now, the sensible decision is to go Robbo, surely.
Yeah.
Rob?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I've been called in for Robbo since, the second Glyn departed. I think it's a sensible option to give him the job. He knows the players. He's been on the training ground. He gets us as a fan-owned club. He gets the philosophy. I think his interviews have been superb. He's addressed certain things which the fans have liked. But yeah, I think I do feel sorry for Robbo that the Rochdale game got called off, because we have got a hard run of fixtures. And our last 3 fixtures as well, I think they're Portsmouth, Ipswich, and somebody else got hard. Our last 3 fixtures.
Play final day.
Lincoln away.
Yeah, so I wouldn't like to be in that relegation zone going into the last 3 either. But it goes to show how tough this division is, and how hard it is. And but the good thing with Robbo, he's all about performance and just looking at the next game and taking every game as it comes. I don't think he'll look at the bigger picture. He'll just be focusing now on Peterborough and what he can do to get maximum performance and try to nick a point, if not 3, from that game.
I think just very quickly, just talking about that running of the 20 games we've got. Yeah, they're all very close together. 12 of those are at Plough Lane, and 5 of those 12 are against teams in the bottom 7. If you
nick that stat off me, George.
No, I heard that one before from anyone else. But if we win those 5 games, if you add 15 points to our total, there's not a huge amount more we need. Those 5 are massive, massive games for us. And it'll be interesting to see how much we can get from them. And, they're the key ones. And then that means, hopefully, we'll be safe with a few games left.
And Anne-Marie, I suppose if, we're not assuming that Robert's got a job by any stretch, we know nothing. But you probably have to bring in a number 2, a coach, an assistant manager with him. It looks like he'll probably go with the academy. He's bought in the guys from the academy side. Do you think that's where we go if he gets a job?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he obviously trusts them, and he said that, I think, earlier in the week, and they had a great interview. I watched that with Rob Tuvey. Very, very switched on, and he's where the work he's done in the academy isn't just with the players, is it? He's crafted some of those coaches and that philosophy and what he's about. And I should imagine, he's got that long-term vision that he talked to us about last Sunday, and that his coaches that he's worked with and he's trained would be best placed to help facilitate that. Equally, it wouldn't surprise me if he utilises the kind of positivity that Bezo brings. I know we talked about that before, whether he'll just want him to stick to the role, which he does really, really well. Not sure. And going back to, I thought it was really interesting a point that Rob made in terms of actually it makes sense to have someone like Robbo at the moment, because we've got so many games coming up thick and fast, and just not to rock the boat too much, keep that consistency. We've just got to use that to our advantage. I think having so many games at once, that's the only way we can look at it is, like Robbo, you were saying, prepare for the next performance. As soon as that's one done, let's just focus straight on the next one, rather than sort of having a whole week of training and build up. Maybe we've just got to take it to our advantage to have these games come thick and fast, and that's what we can do, because it's just there's going to be a lot of congestion. I should imagine there'll probably be more games called off, whether that's COVID or whether. But in terms of who number two, I think it would be someone internal, definitely.
And just on that sort of side, 12 of those games of the 20 are at home. So, hey, look, if there's a roadmap to get fans back at games, at home advantage could be interesting, couldn't it, on that sort of side of it? Just a few things before we wrap up. Just a reminder, the Dons Trust have on their website today about Terrace Talk. So the Football Support Association has launched Terrace Talk, a supporter-led mental health initiative. Looks really good. Obviously, mental health is a massive thing at the moment. It was before. And James Lonsdale, the co-chair of the Dons Trust board, was basically saying about, in terms of fans and members, mental health is vitally important, and the Dons Trust fully supports the Football Association. So if you want more information, and again on there, actually, on a personal level, Jane, has been going to matches along with seeing everyone and all the emotions. She really misses friends and family at games and the social environment. I do. I hate that I can't take the mick out of George. I can't take the mick out of a lot of people that I know on that side of it. So it's that banner, isn't it? It's that banner that we all miss.
It's a match day ritual. Yeah, I think I saw Jane's post about that, and she's absolutely right. I do massively miss the sort of social element of it. Obviously, this is really, really great that you guys have set this up. It's a little something, a little sort of peephole into what's going on at the club, and our thoughts and feelings on everything. But you can't beat that match day experience. And even when you lose and it's a bit rubbish and it ruins the rest of your weekend, the few hours before kickoff, when you're seeing your friends and chatting about how the match is going to go and getting those predictions in, and just everything that comes with that match day experience is so important. So I think actually on Jane's post, it's kind of an initiative to, it's called hashtag Terrace Talk. So let's get talking about this subject and being aware of that there are services out there if things get pretty rough. And actually, early last year in the first lockdown, Joe Piggott, through the Dons Local Action, he phoned a friend of mine who was having a bit of a rough time. So and he checked in on him, and it really, really helped. Just 20 minutes, have a chat about football and all sorts. So.
Yeah, and do you know what? Actually, it reminded me, because Glyn Hodges kindly phoned Lorraine's dad during the first lockdown. Lorraine's dad was really struggling, and I just asked. Obviously, I know a few people. I said, "Look, could Glyn call him?" And he called him literally within 5 minutes. And do you know what? Lorraine's dad was buzzing for a week. Which just called him to talk about football. I know that can't be for everybody. I know that, but there is that out there. It's really weird when you talk about match day, isn't it? Because when you think about it, we're going into a new stadium. Where I'm trying to think now what my normal routine was at Kings Meadow now. I can't think now. It might have been Fat Boys, it might have been going into the club shop and that. But we're going into a new ground where there's no routine, and we probably can't even, I was going to say we can't touch each other. We can't be near each other. It's like we've got to learn a whole new routine. Like, Rob, what are you going to do? Like, are you behind the goal? Have you done anything yet, or what you're thinking about doing?
So I want to be behind the goal in the safe standing. But I haven't mapped anything out in terms of how I'm going to get to the ground. Obviously I live in Red Hills, so I need to work out how I'm going to travel there, whether, where I need to change.
Earlsfield,
yeah. If there's there's probably going to be no parking. So I haven't.
You can't walk along the touch. You can't walk along the street.
Yeah, so I haven't worked any of it out so far. So it's going to be a whole new experience. So if you see me on the first match day looking lost,
you look like a tourist.
Yeah, so if anyone sees me looking lost, point me in the right direction.
And do you know what? Talking about after defeats, George, the good thing about it now, if we get beat, we just go across the road down Mackie D's, isn't it?
Yeah, but when that does open, it's still a while away, but can't imagine the catering department of the club's going to be too happy if you mention it too many more times.
Yeah, I know. It's weird though, isn't it? I do sometimes daydream and think, what's it going to be like on a match day?
Well, you daydream about McDonald's? Is that the level you're at now?
Do you know what? It's handy that it's there. Do you know what I mean? Like, at the time, George, to be fair, the time you go, you can probably make up breakfast for us all. Do you know what I mean? Like, open up the gap, innit? On that sort of side. But I think, I very much, today I'll be truthful, the roadmap out of lockdown has been quite exciting. And thinking about match day, just thinking about match day, you know, Anne-Marie, you know, we've all, you know, apart from Rob, unfortunately, sorry, Rob, but we've been fortunate enough to be at Plough Lane. And we've sort of seen it, haven't we? Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, that sort of side. But it's going to be, I can't wait. I can't wait for it. But again, the terrace talk, you know, it's a great idea. Mental health is a big problem at the moment. But hopefully, you know, if we can get to Plough Lane, it's ready now. We have the keys, as that great video, I have to say, hilarious, Joe, for comic value of, you know, raising the guys back. So I did say that we get a bunch of keys, it would be a lot. And that's I would say that I'm a bit concerned of fucking them throwing their like things up in the air on the pitch. Like, come on, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I listened to you guys on the podcast the other day, and I agree. I thought it was really good. It was obviously very tongue in cheek, and it was nice to see Joe sending himself up. And yeah, I thought it was really, we're all, like I said, we're all chomping at the bit to get back there. But that video really made me think, you know, we've got the keys now. We all want to get back there as soon as we can. I think the match day will be what we make it. I think it'll be pretty fun. I think in terms of you're going to have to craft your own match day ritual from the start. I mean, when I did come up, I've been at once. I was very, very lucky to come up with you guys to watch the Pizza Cup match against Arsenal. I must have done 4 or 5 laps of the stadium just to sort of get an idea of what, you know, match day is going to be like. Where am I going to go? Where's the nearest McDonald's? and you know, maybe it'll take a few trial and errors. You know, you might try out new places, you might try and find your new fat boys, and you're going to be probably sitting with new people at games. That'll definitely change the match day experience, maybe for better.
That'll be fun. How do I get out of this?
Hard to tell. But yeah, I think by the time we get that back there, I don't think we'll be too worried if we're watching rugby league or football. We just want to get back there.
And Rob, you were talking about a safe standing. You have to think that first game isn't going to be very safe, is it? Like, people are going to be absolutely slaughtered, aren't they? Like, I can't imagine what it's going to be like in terms of that side of it. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up there. Thank you all for joining us. It's been a bit more of a happier sort of show tonight. Rob, thank you very much for joining us.
Always a pleasure, mate. Nice to see you.
No problem at all. And obviously, very quickly, great interview released today by Womble's Had a Dream, Freddie Flaxman, who also gets in a promotion for 9 Years podcast. Thank you, Freddie. I know Lee was gutted about that. George, just very quickly, you've got another gig tomorrow night, haven't you? You're a busy person.
Yes, I have. So there is an evening with a Meet the Academy evening being run by the Dons Trust. It's tomorrow night. The link is all over the Dons Trust website and Twitter feeds. So you can register. It's a Zoom evening where we'll be interviewing Michael Hamilton and a couple of other people from the Academy. So fans can learn more about the Academy, how it works, and how they're working to produce the next star of our first team, hopefully, the next Jack Rudoni.
Yeah, I'd recommend if you've got as well, you know, if you can go out anywhere, is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd really recommend you doing that. It's really interesting from Michael last time. Anne-Marie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say thank you to Rob and yourself for putting on both the podcasts for people like me who just need to listen and talk about football all the time, particularly Wimbledon. I think both podcasts are absolutely fantastic, and we really appreciate it, because I can imagine there's a lot of editing going on behind the scenes and a lot of hard work goes into it. So yeah, just on behalf of me and I'm sure lots of fans, we really, really appreciate it. They're good fun to listen to.
Well, yeah, I listened to the weekly one, Rob, and I disagreed with everything that was said on it. And I now realise I now understand what it's like to listen to me on a podcast, because no one's going to agree with everything I say.
Exactly that.
And I'm just sitting there like I'm literally talking to my iPad that's playing the iPad, going, "No, that's wrong." And I'm thinking, that's what people must do to me. So it's, you know, from my personal point of view, I've really enjoyed it, because I've never had a podcast to listen to apart from my own one being available. But
I think that's what I enjoy about us. You know, we get different guests on every week. You know, we get different fans on, so it's good to get a different voice and a different opinion. Because
definitely, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it in terms of, I think there's a place for both podcasts. You know, Lee's dodging sense of humour is ridiculous. And by the way, if Lee could have mentioned any more times that he'd been to America to Freddie Flaxman, if you have a listen to it and count how many times Lee promotes that he's been to America so many times, it was just embarrassing.
Or lives near a player or a manager.
Yeah, Lee.
The other thing he gets ripped about.
Lee gets about, doesn't he? He knows everyone in Essex, everyone in America. He's Zach Robinson and put Adam Ross for his agent. Do you know what I mean? He's going on.
The guy is hilarious, but no, really good podcast. Really enjoyed that, and yeah, we need that. We need that at this time. So thank you very much for joining us. We've had a really good, healthy viewing on here. We are back next week, and yeah, until then, we will see you then.